I'ma be honest. In this video game of life, we've seen two major game-changing updates in our lifetime so far. We've seen the internet patch, where devs added the internet connection and started implementing that into everyone's houses. And we've also seen the new trending AI patch, which is still constantly being updated to this day. But the internet patch is the one we're going to focus on today. It added everything a player could possibly need to get their lives together, and yet it ended up having the opposite effect by basically inflicting self-paralysis on us. Let's see what the fuck I'm talking about, right? Once again, yo, it's Big Old Jimbo here on day 3 of the Spartan regime. That's no social media, no gooning, no scrolling, no drugs, limited alcohol, morning, daily routine, daily workouts, and daily-ish uploads depending on whether I can or not. Join the journey, man. So before I can talk about the internet, I want to talk about something that was discovered literally thousands of years ago. Like, probably one of the most mental or spiritual discoveries, I should say. According to Dr. K, if you guys know him, Healthy Gamer GG, shout out. I'm pretty sure it was him that mentioned that the yogis were the first ones to really push meditation, and that was thousands of years before Christ. There's depictions of meditation existing in like 4000 BC. Now, it may just seem like I'm waffling some random bullshit by bringing this up, but the fact that this was thousands of years before we had this poison that's sitting in front of us, they had no technology in the modern sense of the word, they had no internet, no instant gratification at their fingertips, and still they realized the need for mindfulness and clarity. Now, if it can benefit them when they didn't even have the same temptations as us, can you not really understand how meditation and mindfulness, like the need for those things, has been multiplied like exponentially in the last 2 decades? Because if you really think about it, the internet really isn't that old. I mean, I know it's older than the late 90s, but it wasn't really accessible when it was first created eventually, right? But nowadays, you can't get away from the internet. You can't get away from live TV. Your brain is in a constant state of stimulation 16 hours a day or however long you're awake for. Even when you're not watching TV or doom scrolling, what else do you do? Listen to the radio in your car? Are you playing music? Do you have your headphones on, listening to a podcast? Even when you eat your dinner, you need a fucking YouTube video on just to fucking relax, man. I know that gets said all the time, but like, we are stimulated all the time. Like, it's not good, man. With all of these activities, you may think to yourself that you're relaxing because, yeah, at the time, if you're going on a walk listening to a podcast, it can feel relaxing, right? But it's still stimulating your brain regardless of how it feels. When was the last time you just sat there and just genuinely did nothing? And just felt. That's it. Just felt. Felt what your body was saying. If I gave you a challenge, right? If I gave you a challenge to just sit in a room, an empty room for like an hour or two, do you think you'd be able to do it? Or do you think you would even want to do it? And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying stimulation is bad. Stimulation is great. That's how we learn things like that, right? You need stimulation in your brain. But like everything else in life, excessive amounts is very bad. What happens when we're constantly stimulated is that our brain just never has time to digest anything you're putting into it. Imagine it this way. Pretend that when you eat food, your digestive system is unable to activate, so the food just stays in your stomach. But you never stop eating. That's literally our thoughts. We're constantly thinking, and we're constantly fantasizing, constantly consuming something, so that our brains just never stop and get a second to actually digest what it's thinking about. Even if you could physically, which don't get me wrong, boys, I can't either, so don't worry about it. But even if you could run 10 hours a day straight, even if you could work out for 10 hours a day, even if you could eat for 10 hours straight, you wouldn't do it because you know that it's not physically good for you. But your brain can't tell you that the stimulation is bad. You don't see the downside, so you just keep frying it until it basically becomes numb. And then the worst part is, these things that you're stimulating with, when you do it for long enough, you don't even enjoy it anymore. I mean, be honest. It's a great way to pass the time, sure. Do you even enjoy scrolling? Do you enjoy, like, gaming? Can you focus on a TV series without grabbing your phone every 5 minutes? Because I'll be completely honest with you, the reason I actually started this channel and started this journey that I was going on was because I wasn't even enjoying the stuff I was doing anymore. I would play games, I would, I'd eat a shit ton of food, I'd binge watch YouTube, I'd doom scroll on Instagram, And I realized after months and months of doing it, I wasn't even having fun. I didn't enjoy any of this. Now, obviously there were exceptions, right? Every now and again you do find a banger game which you do genuinely enjoy. I got fucking sucked into Baldur's Gate big time. Baldur's Gate 3, I think I sunk like 300 hours into that motherfucker in like 6 weeks or something. I got really hooked. But that's one in a million, right? Maybe not, but you get what I'm saying. What about the games you come back to, right? I was a big League player, so I played a shit ton of League. I also loved MMOs, so I play a shit ton of MMOs. And then other games that I would just routinely come back to, like maybe like Slay the Spire or something like that. I was playing these games not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what the fuck else I would do otherwise. It was either play games or binge YouTube. They were the only two options in my brain. The reason for that is my baseline dopamine was so fried, I couldn't find motivation to do anything that seemed enjoyable. So the only things I could default to was games and YouTube because the resistance was zero. You can literally go on YouTube or open up a game with no resistance whatsoever, and it stimulates that part of your brain that makes you feel like you're having dopamine. But realistically, you're so numb, it's not even fun anymore. I forget what YouTuber I listened to this from, but there was a really good study that kind of sums this whole argument that I'm putting out to you perfectly. And it was the experiment on a rat. They fully depleted the rat of its dopamine, and don't ask me how the fuck they did that, I have no idea, but regardless, they took all the dopamine out of the rat's brain, right? And then they placed food to it like 2 feet away. This rat with no dopamine would rather starve to death then move 2 feet in front of him to get the food. And while I know that may sound a little bit extreme, it's not really that dissimilar to what we're doing. We would rather sit here in our chairs, in our fucking rooms, or on our phones, just not doing anything, not moving, not progressing, not having any goals, simply because we don't want to move. We don't want the resistance. So, if you're my age, late 20s, early 30s, you actually got to experience childhood without this technology shackling us 24/7. I don't even think kids go to the park to play anymore, to be honest with you. And I think that's the only reason that I'm not some brain dead like TikTok memester bullshit, whatever the fuck you want to call them, because I got to experience life. Not much of it, but I got to experience life without smartphones and fiber optics and all that shit. So honestly, I'm pretty blessed I was born in the 90s just so I got to experience it, because I can't imagine how much worse it is for the younger generation. Especially, look, I don't mean to judge, of course, you know, being a parent's probably very hard, but when I see their like 4-year-old just with a massive iPad the size of them and they're just glued to that screen, I think, oh, that can't be good for that little guy's brain. I feel so bad. Now, anyway, I know this sounds super negative so far, right? But we're getting to the good part. So let's speed this up, right? It doesn't have to be this way, right? But unfortunately, the solution to this isn't fun either. It's going to be boring, it's going to be tedious, but fuck me, is it effective. Meditation, man. I don't know how it's taken me like 8 minutes to actually bring this up in a video that's all about meditation, but meditation. That is the solution to, honestly, I don't mean to exaggerate, a lot of problems in your life. You can just try to aim to get to a point where you can do just 10 minutes a day. And you can break that up into 2 sessions of 5 minutes if you want, in the morning and in the evening. I think the morning works better for me personally because my brain's all kind of jacked up in the evening, so it's a bit harder to focus. But I do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, one in my morning routine and one in my evening routine. But what you do is entirely up to you, and I recommend you start small first. Just do 1 minute. Just do 1 minute. Get the timer app on your phone. You don't need an app. You don't need a tracker. The results will speak for themselves. Start with 1 minute. Work your way up to 2, then 3, then 5, 10, and implement it into your routine for the rest of your life. I remember when I was in a really good routine a few years ago, I was doing 20 minutes, which is a bit out of my expertise right now, to be honest with you, since I'm only just getting back into this. But the results I was getting from 20 minutes was crazy. Like, I would just be so... I do think it was a bit of placebo as well, but I'd be so locked in and focused that I would just be confident to talk to anyone about anything at some points, and that was a really nice side effect to have. Now, there's no need to overcomplicate it with guides or watch-alongs on YouTube. Just set a timer, breathe slowly, in and out, both through your nose, just focus on your breath, and any time you find yourself thinking of something, just come back to the breath. Don't judge yourself for thinking of other things. That's literally the entire point of meditation. You're supposed to lose focus. Even the monks lose their focus. We've all got things clouding our minds, you know. You just can't let it dictate your emotion. So anytime you catch yourself thinking about something, just say, hey, I'm thinking about X, whatever that thing may be. Interesting. And then come back to your breath. That's all you have to do. It really is that simple. The hard part is doing it every single day. Anyone can go to the gym once. You're not going to get jacked. It's all about implementing it into your daily routine, which is part of the reason I even made this channel in the first place, just to make sure I can hold myself accountable and hopefully bring some people along with me, you know. So why does meditation actually work? It works because it strengthens your focus. And I'm going to be honest, I don't want to bore you with all the answers that meditation has, because I think some of these things are much better when you experience and discover it for yourself. Because if I try and tell you, you're going to be thinking about it too much. I think when you experience it, that's when it's kind of like revolutionary in your own mind, right? But it should go without saying, having laser focus just makes everything in life so much easier. Think about it this way. I'll give you an example. It's impossible to be anxious about the present. You can be anxious in the present, but anxiety can only really activate when you're thinking about the future, right? Even if you have a memory of something embarrassing that you did years ago and you think that it causes you anxiety, just have a real think about it. Are you actually anxious that it happened? Or are you anxious because you're worried about what people might think of you? Which means you're worried about how people will treat you in the future because of what you did in the past. Which means even though you have a negative memory of something in the past, it's causing you anxiety about the future. Now, if that, I understand that kind of came out a little weird, but put it this way. Let's say you fell over in public, right? That's kind of, it can be embarrassing. I wouldn't be embarrassed, but it can be embarrassing. But what if nobody was there to see it? What if you just slipped over, no one was there, nobody saw? Would it still be embarrassing? Would it still cause you anxiety? I highly doubt that. And the way this ties into the way this ties into meditation is because when you're fully focused on the present, which is what meditation does, it might not cure the anxiety, but it basically reduces the ammo. Because if you're not thinking about the future, if you're not thinking about the past, anxiety can't activate. That's a literal fact, by the way. This isn't my opinion. That's a fact. The more focused on the present that you are, the less energy your brain has to think about the past and the future. Literally meaning just by being focused, or in a more literal sense, mindful is what we call it, it literally increases your mood tremendously. And I think we all need that in this day and age. I think it's time you start treating yourself better, to be honest with you. I really do. Now, I could go further into how this whole routine affects your dopamine, which in turn affects your emotion. But somehow, these videos always end up being way longer than I aim for. I literally try and do like 5-minute videos, just really quick ones, just to try and get the word out, right? And I know that a lot of people, especially in this day and age, they don't have time to watch a fucking 15-20 minute video of some random 30-year-old bloke playing fucking Halo talking about life, right? I understand that. And yet anytime I do these videos, look at it, we're 14 minutes in already. I just don't understand how it keeps happening, man. So I'll do another video on dopamine, and because I have a lot to talk about with dopamine, I'll give you a little quick rundown, to be honest. But first, I'll just quickly wrap up how the journey's going so far, if anyone cares. The video is basically done at this point. You can click off if that's basically what I'm going to say about meditation. Go meditate, motherfucker. Fucking treat yourself a bit better. So I'm on day 3 of the journey, like I said earlier. And I don't know if it's the fact that I got back into the gym, or that I'm sleeping earlier, or that I have a lack of nicotine because I quit vaping at the start of this. But weirdly enough, my sleep for the past few days has really not been very good. Like even tonight, for example, I got less than 5 hours sleep, and I kept waking up throughout the night. And my body always gets 8 hours sleep, always. Doesn't matter when I sleep. My body just knows when it slept for 8 hours, and it will always wake me up after 8 hours. But for some reason yesterday, I was waking up multiple times, and I slept for less than 5 hours, and I felt awake. I couldn't get back to sleep. But I think I know what's happening. I think my nervous system is just completely fried, adapting to this routine. And I'm pretty confident that over time, while my baseline dopamine becomes more stabilized, I'm going to be better than ever. So without waffling too much, I have a weird sense of gratitude that in these first few days, I'm actually feeling worse, right? Because my assumption was when I start this journey, I would fall way below my baseline dopamine levels. And in a sense, I would feel worse because my dopamine is so low. But the reason why that's a good thing is because now that I've cut all these unhealthy habits out, even though I'm gradually going down, that's actually proving my theory so far that I'm actually on track to go back to baseline. And I think after a week or two, when the whole body's getting used to it and the dopamine levels are, readjusting themselves, I think and I hope I'm going to feel better than ever. That's my hypothesis. That is my theory. That is big old Jimbo's theory on the old matter. But anyway, that's enough for now. Look at this, another 16-minute video. Fuck me. Sorry, boys. So anyway, thank you again for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. I really do. And whatever journey you're currently on, I hope it's bringing you fulfillment and progress. This has been your boy, big old fucking Jimbo. See you in the next one.